Hey, it's getting really bad for Donald Trump. The new civil rights movement is reporting that I don't even know how to set this up. So Donald Trump told this lie that, quote, thousands and thousands of Muslim Americans in Jersey City, New Jersey, were cheering and celebrating the 9/11 attacks. And there's a reporter named Serge Kovaleski who was a reporter for the Washington Post back on September 11th of 2001. And he wrote about police interviewing people accused of allegedly celebrating the attacks, and none of the accusations were actually true. So he has written about this extensively. He happens to have a physical disability which limits the functioning of his joints. He carries himself in a way that is notably not what you would typically see for an individual that is completely able-bodied. And on Tuesday, Donald Trump mocked Kovaleski, and by every reasonable analysis of the video, it seemed like Trump was motioning and mimicking Kovaleski's disability. Now, I'm going to play the video for you. If you are only listening to this, you can easily find the video online. Let's take a look at the video, and then we'll talk about what's going on here.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
That reporter he is talking about is Serge Kovaleski, who now works for the New York Times. As you can see right there, he suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arms. A Times spokesman says they find it outrageous that Trump would ridicule the man's appearance.
Yeah, it's outrageous that Donald Trump would ridicule someone's appearance instead of the substance of what they say, right? I mean, he only has done it to Carly Fiorina. He did it to Rand Paul. It's completely crazy, right? Because there's no track record of Donald Trump of ridiculing people's appearance.
Let's not forget Rosie O'Donnell.
Right? Naturally.
That's a big one. Yes, Trump likes to do that. And
he's fixated on people's appearance, even that of his own daughter, who he seems obsessed with.
Yes, and his own, Dave. He has said many times, he talks about how handsome he is. And it's, Dave, are we going to fall into this trap too? I mean, I don't think he's a very good-looking guy, but he thinks he's incredibly handsome.
Donald Trump.
So it's kind of like, yeah.
I couldn't care less what Donald Trump looks like. What I do care about is that then Trump really went off the rails, because after this controversy blew up, he tried to deny that he was making fun of Kovaleski's physical condition by saying, I have no idea who this reporter is. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what his level of intelligence is. I don't know if he's J.J. Watt or Muhammad Ali. Despite having one of the greatest memories, I don't remember ever having met him. Unfortunately, that is not true. They met many, many times. Kovaleski, in fact, saying Donald and I were on a first-name basis for years. I've interviewed him in his office. I've talked to him at press conferences. I would say I've met him around a dozen times. What do you think is the truth here, right? I mean, it's very... Donald Trump has never mocked anybody else that I'm aware of by mimicking what happens to be the physical disability of this particular reporter. Then he claims he has a great memory, but he's never met him. He's actually met him 12 times.
I really doubt that Serge is lying about meeting Donald Trump. So is it possible that Trump has a poor memory? Maybe. Maybe he's telling the truth about that. But I don't think there's any denying that he's mocking the appearance, or, mocking the way this guy moves around or whatever.
Very little doubt whatsoever. And if Trump's tax plan and foreign policy ideas don't scare you, you should probably be put off by this. But at the same time, if you think Trump's foreign policy and tax ideas are reasonable, maybe you don't care if he mocks someone's physical disability. I don't know. So a lot of Thanksgiving clips and stories done on all sorts of corporate media outlets. Cook this, cook that. Here's how to fry turkey. Here's, Thanksgiving manners, whatever. And Fox News falling face first into just parroting stereotypes about black people. And, we've heard a lot of these before. And it's almost weird to even have to explain this, but in case you aren't aware of this, there are food stereotypes around many different cultures. And around African Americans, those food stereotypes are, African Americans love fried chicken. And, African Americans love watermelon. By the way, fried chicken and watermelon, who doesn't like fried chicken and watermelon? Two of my favorite foods. I'm certainly not black. Another one of these is, oh, black people like flavored sodas and drinks like grape and orange soda, etc. And they like Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid, of course, the powder that is added to water or some other liquid to make a drink. So Fox News host Harris Faulkner, who's black, goes on Fox and Friends to show how she makes peach cobbler. And she brings on her daughter, and it's all very nice and on the up and up. Very nice segment. And Brian Kilmeade, all of a sudden, as a complete non sequitur, asks Harris Faulkner whether she makes Kool-Aid. I mean, it connects to absolutely nothing. Here's the video.
A recipe, you're gonna make peach cobbler.
We are, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
You are my
Good
friend
morning.
Bella. Good to see you.
Great to see you. Hi, Bella.
Bella, tell them what you're gonna do.
I'm going to pour the mixture into the bowl.
All right, Bella has added all
You're
the...
done, stir, sweetie?
So far.
All right,
With
so
this?
now I'm gonna take my peaches and I'm just gonna lay
Which is great that they're
them
canned,
in
by the way,
here.
because you can do this any time of the year.
You can do
Anytime.
this.
I love
I do
that.
it in the summer,
So
and I put fresh strawberries in here too.
Oh, what a good idea. Do you
Right?
make Kool-Aid?
That's another.
I'm going to try this.
Do I do what?
Make Kool-Aid.
No, I don't make Kool-Aid,
very
but
much
I
in the
made an
summer.
adult beverage for us.
She does. She brought us a good one.
Boom, boom, boom.
And then
when you're done, you sprinkle the
Harris
sugar.
Crocker, through the magic of
350, 60 minutes.
through the magic of
love it.
television, it winds up.
The entire segment seems so fake, right? They have the daughter on talking about the peach cobbler, and it's mostly all pre-made. And the only thing that seems real is Brian Kilmeade's genuine curiosity about whether black families really make Kool-Aid when they make peach cobbler. That's the realest part of this segment.
Yes, and that he lacks the filter to know that that might be something you don't want to say on air. Maybe you ask after the segment, but it's great. I love the reaction on the face of the guy next to him.
Steve Doocy, who it takes a lot to shock Steve Doocy back into coherence, he perks up right away.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth Hasselbeck has the common sense to pretend she didn't even hear it and just talk about how great it is that you could use canned peaches or whatever on the thing. I mean, just resounding stupidity on Fox News. And you bring on the black anchor and then you ask her about the Kool-Aid. It's just, none of this makes any sense. And people are eating it up. People just love these because these are family-friendly segments, Louis.
Yes, but Faulkner's response was great. She didn't just say, "Oh no, I don't make Kool-Aid," and then moved on. She said, "No, I don't make Kool-Aid." Why are you asking me this?
So no surprise. I mean, this stuff happens all the time on Fox. Let's take a break. We have a great interview coming up. And later, does welfare make people lazy? Republicans say it does, but does it? We'll talk about that. 26-year-old Dexter Bell committed any number of rapes in Brooklyn, New York in 2013 after being previously convicted in the rape of a 17-year-old back in 2008. Now he has been sentenced to 100 years in prison by a Brooklyn judge after sexually assaulting 4 women in 1 week, including a 15-year-old girl. When he was arrested, he was carrying a handwritten note which detailed the dates and times of 2 of the rapes. Bell also sexually assaulted a correction officer earlier this year while being moved from Rikers Island. Let's take a look at the quote here from the Brooklyn DA, Ken Thompson. This serial rapist who committed 4 rapes within 1 week, including one of a 15-year-old girl, is a sadistic and violent sexual predator who is simply not fit to walk the streets ever again. That's why he must spend the rest of his life behind bars. So let's talk about the sentence, right? By being sentenced to 100 years, what are we saying? Are we saying this man can never be rehabilitated? What if the problem is that he didn't know rape was wrong? What if the problem is mental illness? From a psychological perspective, it's actually pretty sensible to say the more depraved the crime, the more likely that actually cognitive rehab and mental health help is what is necessary here. And it makes it tough because the more depraved crimes are understandably the ones that people want to see longer prison sentences for. So I don't know. I don't know that this is a particular person who deserves a shot at rehabilitation rather than being permanently removed from society. How do we determine that, Louis? How do we say, well, this crime is so crazy that you don't deserve a shot at rehabilitation, which is on paper supposedly supposed to be the goal of our justice system, of our incarceration system?
Well, I think in cases like this, in just about every case, I mean, the defense for that person who's accused of a crime is probably going to try and make that argument. I mean, psych evaluations are pretty common in cases like this, and I'm going to assume that happened here. And I'm also going to assume that it was determined that this person is not insane and just a malicious, evil criminal.
Evil. I mean, that's an interesting way to say it, right? When we talk about evil and when we talk about circumstance, when we know that most of those who commit sexual assault, many, were victims of sexual assault themselves. Does being the victim of sexual assault make you evil? How do you become evil?
Plenty of victims of sexual assault never commit those acts themselves. So I can't answer that question, but both types of people exist, Dave, and I think that, one is worse than the other.
Factually speaking, life in prison for 4 rapes. Correct sentence, incorrect sentence?
I would say correct sentence. If what I assume to be, if what I'm assuming about this person is true, then yes, correct sentence.
We've had many stories where we see 30-day sentences for rape,
Or
rapes
no
of
time.
children. No time for rapes of children. Do we see a situation in our criminal justice system where we see too significant of punishments, sentences for nonviolent drug offenses, and not strong enough punishments for violent crime like rape? Or does the entire thing really need to be rebuilt from the ground up? Let me know your thoughts on this one. There are 14 female Democratic senators in the U.S. Senate. 13 of those 14 have already endorsed Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton for president. One female Democratic senator has not endorsed Hillary Clinton. Her name is Elizabeth Warren. Hillary Clinton now boasts endorsements from 38 of the 46 Senate Democratic members, which is about 83% of that caucus, according to The Chase, U.S. News's political tracker. Senator Bernie Sanders, the Vermont independent who caucuses with Democrats, has not yet landed a single endorsement from a colleague. No Republican candidate has more than 3 Senate endorsements. But at issue today, and what I want to discuss with you, is that Elizabeth Warren has not endorsed anybody yet. And this is interesting for a number of reasons. Number one, of course, we have the gender element, and many making a lot out of the idea that Elizabeth Warren, although a woman, like Hillary Clinton, actually has much more in common politically with Bernie Sanders. And I don't think there's any doubt about that, Lewis. There's no question that on politics, Senator Warren is far closer to Bernie Sanders than she is to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I think that much of what Warren, if you look at what she's been lobbying against, the big banks, Wall Street, we know Hillary's connections there, and clearly they don't jive. And I don't think we're going to hear that endorsement, but she hasn't endorsed Bernie either, right?
No, and asked about Elizabeth Warren, a Bernie Sanders campaign spokesman named Michael Briggs said, quote, he's known her and admired her since she was a mere Harvard professor. They speak all the time. And Senator Warren has sort of danced around questions of endorsing Bernie Sanders or endorsing anybody. She publicly has been very positive about Bernie Sanders, fighting for what she believes in, as Lewis talked about, many issues related to big business and banking and minimum wage, etc. But she has also avoided any direct criticism of Hillary Clinton. Does this matter as far as impact? Probably not. Endorsements are of unclear value. An endorsement from one senator is likely not to make a very big difference at all, even if that senator is Elizabeth Warren, who is seen as one of the top progressives today. But it is very interesting because it continues on what is sort of speculated to be a tenuous relationship between Elizabeth Warren and the Clintons. The Clintons have, by every estimate, viewed Elizabeth Warren as a sort of political threat for a long time. Former President Bill Clinton reportedly declined to campaign for Elizabeth Warren's Senate race in 2012. And the bigger issue is, of course, the conversation around why this is a story for some. And for many, and this is kind of sad to me, the big story here is, well, why wouldn't a female senator who's a Democrat endorse Hillary Clinton, who is a female Democrat running for office. And I think the answer is that it's about much more than just gender, right? It's clearly about political issues. And there's this caricature of, oh, women just want to vote for someone based on their gender if it's a woman, which was disproven with regard to African Americans voting for Barack Obama because he's black. There was Herman Cain. We now see Ben Carson, and there is no rush from Democrats to support someone. I'm sorry, there's no rush from black voters to support a candidate merely because they are black. So I actually think the gender story is not the right story through which to analyze this.
No, but it's sad that there are those groups. We saw this last election cycle. The groups of women, probably numbering in the thousands, maybe tens of thousands, who were only supporting Hillary because she was a woman, voting because she would, right?
You're saying they exist.
They exist.
There are
Right?
people who will support any candidate for identity politics reasons. They may support the evangelical Christian candidate as opposed to the Catholic or Baptist because that is their religion, or they may support Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders is Jewish, for example. That exists, but I think the idea that the identity politics alone are going to propel someone to victory, that is what seems to be increasingly harder and harder to believe.
Well, I don't think that's going to be the case. Your gender is not going to win you an election, but Dave, it will, in Hillary's case, get you thousands and thousands of votes. Just based on
Although,
that.
maybe not, according to some, as many as Bernie Sanders is getting from at least female donors. But we'll talk about that story probably more tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about a very ironic story from Fox News. Fox News host Andrea Tantaros is angry because she says after the Planned Parenthood shooting, liberals were indicting an entire religion because the guy who committed the shooting at Planned Parenthood happened to be a white, middle-aged, right-wing Christian terrorist. This is so funny, and I'm going to play the clip for you. And of course, what's ironic about this, and Charles Payne gets pulled into this on the show, and you have Andrea Tantaros, and then you have, I believe, Dana Perino got wrapped up, or maybe it was Harris Faulkner. I may be misspeaking. Just listen to this, and then we'll discuss the obvious irony and absurdity of it.
So is it? I mean, I think this was pretty predictable, Charles. You saw on Twitter a lot of people rushing to judgment. Yeah. The same people that hesitate using the phrase Islamic terrorism were very quick to use the term Christian.
Right.
You're absolutely right. In fact, Harris and I both, we covered this live on Friday. Mm-hmm. And, you had to walk a very thin line, obviously. And, you knew Planned Parenthood was there, but there were other businesses there. You kind of figured it was centered on this. And as soon as that was the case, people were tweeting me the definitions of terrorism and those kind of things. But, when I listened to what Hillary said, from what I understand, people have an opposition, particularly some of the politicians, Republican politicians running for the White House, to the idea of taxpayers funding Planned Parenthood and abortion. They're not saying, hey, listen, the courts have ruled, perhaps they'll rule again in the future. They're not saying, and you don't have to like abortion, but they're saying there's no way in the world that taxpayer money should be used for that, particularly when they're talking about selling baby parts.
Pause it there real quick, Louis. Just pause. Charles Payne is still talking about baby parts. This is the type of rhetoric that the terrorist who committed the Planned Parenthood shooting mentioned after his arrest, right? And Charles Payne is still talking about the fake baby parts videos. Just think about that, and then let's listen to the rest of what they said.
They're talking about selling baby parts. And that's neither one, Bernie Sanders or Hillary, those clips we saw, both very disingenuous. And that's what stokes these flames of hatred and anger.
And it was quite the leap, too, as you point out, to talk about a shooting and then link that somehow to women not being able to get abortions. Harris, you were on this story from the minute it broke in the Fox News desk, and you stayed with me. I know you stayed with Charles. I was filling in for Greta Van Susteren, and when you and I were doing the news, they got the guy. But at the same time, I'm waiting to go on air. But Paris, they were not releasing information, and yet people had already jumped to conclusions, and they were indicting an entire religion, Christian, white, Republican, before we even got details.
You know, and then you had the
indicting an entire religion the way you on Fox and your friends do every time there is a Muslim terror incident, asking random Muslims with no connection not only to the incident, but maybe not even to the country that the perpetrators were from, to state whether they denounce the terror or not. The irony here is absolutely astounding, and they won't see it, Louis, right? They won't see on Fox that they're upset that at what they see of a branding of white Christian terrorists, right-wing Christian terrorists. They're upset about that, while they jump on board demanding random Muslims denounce acts of terror, doing the exact same thing.
They are very quick to do that, but they also think that liberals, of course, they put liberals all in the same category as well,
right?
Have this inability to say Islamic terrorist, radical Islamic terrorist, because, okay, maybe Obama hasn't said it. Maybe, I don't know if he said it or
he
not.
has.
I believe he has, but I certainly have no problem saying that. You have no problem saying that.
Absolutely. And I know that there are some on what's increasingly being described as the regressive left who want to remove any responsibility whatsoever of terror from the terrorists. And we don't do that on this program, but you're absolutely right, Louis. Many on the left do. And remember, these are the same xenophobes who have been screaming about keeping all the Muslims out of the U.S., all the Muslim refugees out, and only accepting Christian refugees. They are the one branding entire religions as A, B, or C, good, bad, whatever, and they will never see it because they are in this echo chamber of just nonsense, this apoplexy of lunacy that exists on Fox News. And hey, we're not going to be able to convince them otherwise.
No, probably not, Dave. They would have to, I suppose, befriend some Muslims and I don't know.
Well, as Donald Trump has said, some of his best friends are Muslim or Hispanic or whatever the case may be. That's a really great way, actually, to sort of distance yourself from criticism. Say, hey, some of my best friends fall into this category.
Yeah, Donald Trump's best friend is a female Mexican Muslim. Right. It's ridiculous. I think what Fox News needs, Dave, is they need a Muslim host. They need a Muslim anchor. And that way they can have some, they can say, look who we have on our show. We're not xenophobes.
And if you can get that Muslim host on Fox News to denounce all Muslims, I mean, even better, right? Then you're really, it's a home run. It's a total home run. On Monday, I told you about the Turkish prime minister admitting that he personally gave the order for Turkey to shoot down a Russian plane which had gone over, which was in Turkish airspace for 17 seconds. And we sort of speculated that this may be connected to Turkey's desire to drive a wedge between Russia and the West, where tensions have been noticeably not very significant since the terrorist incident in Paris. And we now have more information which suggests that our speculation, and that of many others, Louis, I mean, it was not just us speculating, may have been absolutely spot on. Russia is now aiding Kurdish rebels, a group that has been labeled as terrorists by Turkey. In layman's terms, this is an alliance which, to Turkey's geopolitical aspirations, particularly in Syria, could be very, very bad. Turkey is now in a situation where the legendary Syria-Turkey ISIS oil train is being destroyed by Russian bombers. And we are increasingly, Louis, seeing what is shaping up. And I don't know what I would predict would even happen here. This is really shaping up to be interesting for a number of reasons. Number one, because of how it's going to influence Turkey and ISIS and that connection, which I'll get to a little more, but also because of the way in which it may change the dynamic of Russia-Western relations.
Yeah, I don't think it's reasonable to expect there to be some type of war. I think both countries are going to avoid that at all costs. But Syria, the Syrian battlefield could become a lot more bloody as a result of these tensions increasing.
And in addition to this alliance that we are now seeing, at the Paris Climate Summit, Vladimir Putin, and I understand we have to take everything Vladimir Putin says with a grain of salt, Vladimir Putin said that Russia has evidence that Turkey shot down that Russian plane in order to, quote, ensure oil deliveries by ISIS. We can't believe everything that Vladimir Putin says, but what's clear is that the rift is ramping up. If indeed it is true that there is this connection between either Erdogan, the Turkish president, or others in Turkey, and ISIS's, that's a tough word to say, ISIS's illegal oil trade, and that Erdogan, as some are saying, personally benefited from it, that would be huge. And it also wouldn't be all that shocking, given what we've learned about Erdogan over the last couple of years.
Well, I think that I would kind of be surprised by that. I
don't really see
Erdogan or Turkey in general needing to get involved in that type of thing at all.
Want, I don't know.
I mean, that dude's got money. Didn't we talk about that crazy palace he had built or something? I mean, I think he's all set. I think the country is relatively stable and doing okay. I mean, I don't see a reason for them to get involved with that. And of course, Putin is going to say things like that.
Well, it's not just Putin, right? I mean, Russia's deputy defense minister, who of course is just a mouthpiece for Vladimir Putin, Anatoly Antonov, told journalists in Moscow that, quote, Turkey is the main destination for the oil stolen from its legitimate owners, who are Syria and Iraq. Turkey resells this oil. The appalling part of it is that the country's top political leadership is involved in the illegal business, President Erdogan and his family. Very serious accusations. I'm going to wait until we hear it from more than just Putin and one of his people before I say this is probably true.
Yeah, yeah, you said you wouldn't put it past the guy. I don't really know. But certainly if we were to discover that this is the truth, that would be huge.
Absolutely huge. Truly, truly incredible. Yet another black man was killed by police on video. San Francisco police officers shot and killed a man yesterday afternoon in the Bayview district of San Francisco. We have two different cell phone videos to show you. We don't really see anything particularly graphic, but I'll just issue a general warning that the videos are loosely of a guy getting shot and killed by police. Police say that the man who officers shot and killed was wanted in a stabbing that happened nearby less than an hour prior to this shooting. They describe the man as in his 20s, African-American, and as of right now, his name has not yet been released. Here is the first video, and police say that the man had a 6 to 8 inch long knife in his hand, that 5 officers fired their weapons, killing the man. We have the video. I can't see the knife, but you do hear someone yell, just drop it, please. And we have there's no real assertion being made that there was no knife. It's just not very visible in this particular video. Let's take a look at the first video. So San Francisco Police Chief Greg Seward explained what happened leading up to the shooting as the police are telling the story. He says that police deployed standard beanbag guns several times, that those did not cause the suspect to drop the knife. They called for higher powered, less than lethal rounds, that those were deployed, that those did knock the suspect to the ground, but that he still didn't drop the knife, got up again. And we have another video. This is from a different angle. Again, you don't see that much that is definitive one way or another, but it is another angle of the shooting. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, nigga, it's going down, nigga. Oh!
San Francisco is considering body cameras for all police officers. Those are still being debated and are expected to be deployed, if at all, sometime in 2016. There's another... do you want to comment on this so far, Lewis? I mean, there's a lot to say here.
Yeah, sure. I think that it's great that they tried using non-lethal alternatives to start with, but what happened to just shooting the guy in the leg, you know? I mean, why does it have to be this
15 shots.
Hail of gunfire?
Yeah.
You know, maybe you could try shooting him in the knee. And, you know, I know that can do a lot of damage, but maybe it was better than what happened.
So we've had a lot of discussions about tasers, and San Francisco has also had a discussion about tasers. San Francisco police do not have tasers. And the downside to tasers is that they're often used instead of de-escalation techniques. When a taser is used instead of de-escalation, that's a problem. Tasers are designed to be used as non-lethal alternatives when you would otherwise shoot a suspect to disable them or to stop them from doing whatever it is that they're doing. This might actually have been a situation where a taser could have saved this guy's life. So much speculation, and at this point, you know, if you look online, people are posting videos of how quickly, even from 10 feet away, a suspect with a knife can put an officer's life in danger. And those videos are legitimate. You can check them out, self-defense videos online of how quickly a person with a knife can close the distance. So I get that. But as Lewis is pointing out, was the next step after the less than lethal rounds to shoot the guy 15 times, almost like a killing squad, like a death penalty killing team? I don't know that it was.
No, I don't think so. Dave, I've talked about how police do use tasers excessively.
Right.
Too liberal with the tasers, you could
Sure.
say. But I still think they're important to have. And I can think of a number of different non-lethal alternatives that could have been provided to the police. They could have used, maybe some type of gas, maybe the pellet guns with mace in them. There are all sorts of alternatives. And immediately after this video surfaced, there was one of those side-by-side comparisons of someone in the UK, I believe, swinging a machete around at police, actively swinging at the police.
As opposed to having a 6 to 8 inch knife sort of in their pocket.
There were just as many police. Not one shot was fired.
Right.
And eventually they managed to subdue the person. It is perfectly possible.
It's absolutely possible. And as Lewis says, if the guy with the knife that he kind of has somewhat tucked into his pocket, if he is shot once in the leg, and I'm not going around cheerleading for shooting suspects in the leg, but compared to shooting him 15 times and killing him instantly, if the suspect is shot once in the leg, they're probably not going to close a distance of 10 feet and run up to the police officers. I don't know why the 14 subsequent shots were necessary. There will be an investigation. We will ultimately see what happens. And on that note, we will take a break. We have so much to discuss today. I'm glad you're with us on this Thursday. I have a recommendation for you coming up after the break, and we will talk about many, many more things, including a Turkish meme that wraps in Erdogan and Lord of the Rings after the break.